What is the next destination on your travel bucket list? Is it the waterfalls of Iceland, the crystal waters of Tahiti, or would you prefer traveling to Europe during summer? Have you ever noticed the strange three-letter acronyms next to your departure and arrival city when you were booking your flight online, or even on the departure board at the airport when you looked up your flight information? Have you ever found yourself wondering about those three-letter codes that also adorn your luggage tag? Well, you are not alone. Do you even refer to your airport as a three-letter code, JFK in New York or LAX in Los Angeles? After all, every official airport in the world, from the largest Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, ATL, to the smallest Juancho A. Yarosquin Airport on the Caribbean island of Saba, SAB, is assigned a three-letter code. But what does that code mean, and how are they assigned? These are the airport codes. Two official entities assign distinct codes to every airport: the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, and the International Air Transport Association, or IATA. To kick things off, let's travel back in time. Airport coding first began in the 1930s. Initially, pilots in the United States used the two-letter code from the National Weather Service, or NWS, for identifying cities. But this system became unmanageable for cities and towns without an NWS identifier, and the use of two letters allowed only a few hundred combinations. Also, by the late 1940s in the post-World War II era, air travel was becoming increasingly popular and there were too many airports. So, the airlines needed a standardized system to avoid confusion. A three-letter system of airport codes was implemented with the establishment of the IATA in April 1945 at Havana, Cuba. This system allowed for 17,576 permutations, assuming all letters can be used in conjunction with each other. For instance, Los Angeles International Airport was originally just LA, but later became LAX in 1947. X at the end of LA might seem quirky, right? Well, we will touch on that later, so stay tuned for the unveiling. However, the IATA headquarters later shifted to Montreal permanently on the 6th of June 1946. Now, why was Montreal selected? In 1946, Montreal was the most populated and cosmopolitan city in Canada. More importantly, the main features of Montreal's development as a world air centre were explicitly highlighted as being the roundabout for international means of communication and a strategic centre with a formidable economic, scientific, technical and aeronautical infrastructure. The vast spaces of the Canadian territory also offered unlimited possibilities for the scientific and practical experiments in the field of aviation. Canada was at that time in a critical and strategic position on the geographical map, where every direct route between North America on the one side and Europe or Asia on the other crossed the country, and was therefore recognized as a power of first importance in the commercial operations and the development of aeronautics, finally leading to Montreal being chosen as the permanent headquarters of the IATA. The codes are published semi-annually in the IATA Airline Coding Directory. IATA codes are an integral part of the travel industry and essential for the identification of an airline, its destinations, and its traffic documents. They are also fundamental to the smooth running of hundreds of electronic applications which have been built around these coding systems for passenger and cargo traffic purposes. Now, if you are really enjoying our adventure through the aviation history of airport coding, then before we delve any further, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and leave a comment below to let us know you've joined. Back on topic, these three-letter codes are determined by first ensuring that it is unique and not in use by any other entity. The code might be assigned based on the name of the airport, the name of the city, or some other meaningful and relevant identifier if those letters are already taken. No two airports share the same IATA code. Ever wondered how these codes are assigned? It is a meticulous process that involves careful consideration of various factors, including the airport's name, location, and any historical significance, and collaboration between aviation authorities, the IATA, and local communities. For instance, The code LHR for London Heathrow Airport might seem arbitrary, but it pays homage to the airport's former name, London Airport. The H represents Heathrow, the locality where the airport is situated. Some airport codes are easy to unpack. Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, for example, appears as FLL, and Amsterdam Schiphol Airport is AMS. Miami International Airport is MIA. Athens International Airport is ATH, while other airport codes are harder to decipher. Codes like ORD for Chicago's O'Hare International Airport or YUL for Montreal Trudeau International Airport do not seem to make any sense. While these codes may seem mysterious or odd, there are some hidden histories that explain these quirky combinations. If you've ever wondered what goes into deciding airport codes, keep watching to learn all about these groups of letters that seem to defy logic. You will be able to impress your fellow New Orleans flyers if you can share the story of how Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport came to use the code of MSY. When the former New Orleans Municipal Airport on the shores of Lake Pontchartrain needed to be expanded in the late 1930s, the city looked for a larger piece of land further from the city. In 1941, the New Orleans government, in cooperation with the US military that was building up for World War II, decided to use an area called the Moisant Stock Yards, which had a small airstrip that had been in use since the early days of flying. John Moisant, a pioneering pilot and competitive racer, died in a plane crash on the airstrip on the New Year's Eve in 1910. Moisant had set many airspeed records and laid claim to piloting the first passenger flight across the English Channel. In his honour, the landowner named the area the Moisant Stockyards. As the US military quickly built up the airport for WW2, they used the existing name for the code of MSY. New Orleans changed the airport's name to New Orleans International Airport in 1960, then to Louis Armstrong, New Orleans International Airport in July 2001. However, the airport code has remained the enigmatic MSY till today. Chicago's O'Hare International Airport at least starts with an O, like its IATA code, and perhaps refers to the main part of its name by using R. But where does the D at the end come from? To get to the bottom of this code, we will need to turn to the airport's history. Originally called Orchard Field Airport after a nearby farming town, O'Hare's ORD code was assigned when this former name was still in use. Despite the Chicago City Council voting in 1949 to rename the airport after Edward Butch O'Hare, a local Medal of Honor-winning naval fighter pilot who died in World War II, the airport's existing IATA code carried over. As a result, it continues to be how the airport is abbreviated. Montreal Trudeau International Airport's YUL abbreviation is another puzzling code choice. Like Toronto Pearson Airport's use of YYZ and Vancouver International Airport's use of YVR, the Montreal Airport's use of Y to start its IATA code initially seems like an odd pick. Why is it that Canadian airports like Montreal Trudeau begin with Y? A brief Canadian history lesson will help us get to the bottom of this decision. In the 1930s, Canada built a nationwide network of weather reporting stations, which were each given a two-letter radio calling code. As air travel increased, incoming pilots would radio the stations to request help for navigating flights. At the time, airports used two-letter codes, but with the uptick in air travel came a need to streamline the navigation process more efficiently. So, in the early 1940s, Canadian airports adjusted their IATA codes to either include a Y, which stood for yes, as confirmation that a weather station radio tower was nearby, or W, a shorthand for without, to indicate the lack of a radio tower at the beginning. Montreal's radio station code happened to be UL, so the airport started using YUL, a code that remains to this day. Similarly, Kahului Airport's code recognizes Hawaiian Airlines pilot Captain Bertram Jimmy Hogg. Hogg flew the company's first trans-Pacific flight, and to highlight the aviation pioneer, Maui's major airport was then honoured with the OGG code in 1957. You may wonder where the X comes from in the codes for Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, PHX, and Portland International Airport, PDX. The Phoenix code finishing with an X seems logical, but the other airport codes seem pretty random. In fact, the X for LAX and PDX is merely an arbitrary placeholder created by IATA in the 1940s when airport codes in the US expanded from 2 to 3 letters. At the time, airports used the National Weather Service codes for cities, in this case with the logical LA and PD designations. As the number of airports rapidly increased in the 1940s, IATA had to add an extra letter to existing airport codes to make room for new codes. For the sake of simplicity and not to confuse pilots or passengers with new letter combinations, IATA added an X to the end of the existing codes for Los Angeles, Phoenix, Portland, and a number of smaller airports. And that is the way it remains today. Well, have you ever wondered why there are no N airport codes in the US? If you're a New Yorker, have you ever wondered why none of the New York area airports use codes beginning with the letter N? The answer involves a branch of the US military. To distinguish naval air stations from others around the country, the US Navy exclusively uses the letter N at the start of domestic IATA codes. Because of this arrangement, commercial airports that may seem like a natural fit for having IATA codes beginning with N, such as Nashville International Airport, BNA, Tweed New Haven Airport, HVN, and Norfolk International Airport, ORF, start with other letters. And now there are even some humorous airport codes which can make you chuckle. St. Pete, Clearwater International Airport's code is PIE. The airport marketing team took advantage of the fun code and created a website to attract tourists, fly2pi.com. There is LOL, Derby Field Airport in Nevada, serving Lovelock City. OMG, Omega Airport in Namibia, and EEK, a small town in Alaska. Russia's Bolshoye Savino Airport code is PE, and Brazil's Poco de Caldas Airport's code is POO. Sometimes, a strange airport code is a perfect fit, like the aptly named Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana, which is coded BAD. Although bad, the airmen at the Barksdale Air Force Base are considered the best in projecting air power in the United States Air Force. Sioux City, Iowa's Gateway Airport, is coded SUX. But officials rather had fun with the unfortunate code assignment, and they embraced it by partnering with a local retailer to offer a line of products with the slogan, "Fly Sucks." Both residents and visitors think it is fun, which has given the city a national attention. From bag tags to t-shirts, people love to fly SUX. Opened in 2010, Northwest Florida Beaches International Airport had their eyes set on IATA code TFB, standing for the Florida Beaches, only to find out that a small airport in Papua New Guinea already laid claim to the 3-letter ID. Airport officials went down the list of available codes and selected ECP, Everyone Can Party, for attracting spring and summer revelers. It may initially seem like there is no rhyme or reason for some airport codes. However, when you dig a little deeper, you will realize that each IATA-issued abbreviation has a story that fits its airport. As air travel evolves, so do airport codes. New airports emerge and existing ones undergo changes. Keeping up with these alterations presents a unique challenge for the aviation industry. If you've found value in this video, be sure to subscribe, like and leave a comment below to let us know you've joined the channel. Stay tuned to watch our next videos.